والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين إلى قيام يوم الدين. ورد عن سيدي ومولاي الإمام الصادق عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام أنه قال: رحم الله شيعتنا خلقوا من فاضل طينتنا وعجنوا بماء ولايتنا يفرحون لفرحنا ويحزنون لحزننا. نوروا مجالسكم وطيبوا أفواهكم بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد ثلاثا. Many times the question is asked, why is the Shia faith so negative? And I know that this is a specific issue that the community in Cardiff has faced, where people have come forward and said that the Shia faith is negative, or rather, people have left the center with the claim that the Shia faith is what? Negative. And this is a very important question to begin with, which is, first of all, is that actual idea true to begin with? Is this something that we believe? Is that something we adhere to, the negativity in Shia Islam? Or is this just something that Shia Islam has been just tagged with? Has it just been tagged with negativity? Therefore, the question is, what is Shi'ism to begin with? What is the idea of Tashayyu' to begin with? And secondly, what is the idea of the negativity of the Tashayyu', and is it truly negative? And therefore today, I hope to pose the following question, which is the Shia faith negative? And inshallah, we will aim to answer that by first of all understanding what Shia means, where did this word come from, was this used during the time of the Prophet, what is the quality of a Shia, what quality should they possess, and then finally, why is it that certain acts are taken, including mourning, including visiting graves, and including the idea of performing la'na. And we will see that at the end of that, does this then show that the Shia faith is a negative faith, or does it show otherwise? Inshallah, we will aim to answer all of these questions in brief, with your permission and with the blessing of 3 salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Especially for the English part at least, I'm going to talk very briefly and touch upon the points that I think, for example, you might face in school, questions you might face in school, questions you might face from the society. However, first of all, Shia literally means a person who belongs to a specific group. The actual origin of the word is ashab, not Shia. The actual origin of the word Shia is ashab, meaning a companion. Which is why in the Quran, when it talks about Nabiullah Musa alayhi wa ala nabina wa alihi afdalu salati wa salam, when he sees two men fighting, it says, هَذَا مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ وَهَذَا مِنْ عَدُوِّهِ. Meaning one of them is from his companions, from the people who were with him, and the other was from his enemies. And then the story is known where the person from his Shia would call upon Nabiullah Musa alayhi wa ala nabina wa alihi afdalu salati wa salam, and he would help him, and he helps him in defeating the enemy. So one was from the Shia, and the other one was from the enemy. In another verse you will find, وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمِ. And from amongst his Shia, and from amongst his group is Ibrahim. From amongst the people of that group is Ibrahim. So Shia means a person who belongs to a specific group, a person who belongs to a specific companionship. That is what Shia actually means. Then the question comes, is this something or a name that was given after the time of the Prophet, or was this specific name used during the time of the Holy Prophet? The answer is, in an extreme simple manner, it was used during the time of the Prophet. And the evidence for that is more than what you can count. The evidence in which the Prophet would use the word Shia is more than what you can count. First of all, as a word, obviously it existed in the Arabic language. Of course it was used, so don't allow anyone to tell you that this word came from a different country or from a different language or any of that. No, it originated in the Arabic language. The Quran, which was revealed in the Arabic language, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا. We brought it as Arabic. Look at the amount of verses that use the word Shia in them. Yesterday, I just had a quick look at the amount of verses that use the word Shia. There was about 8 or 9. 8 or 9 verses use the word Shia. So is it an Arabic word or not? Of course it is. As for the Prophet, there is an amazing narration that you will find by As-Suyuti, who is not a Shia scholar, by the way. He has a book called Ad-Durr Al-Manthur. In this book, he narrates from Jabir ibn Abdullah Al-Ansari radhiyallahu ta'ala. He says that the Prophet would look at Amir al-Mu'mineen and he would say, إِنَّ هَذَا وَشِيعَتُهُ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Indeed, this person, and he's pointing at Amir al-Mu'mineen, and his Shia are the ones who will be victorious on the Day of Judgment. As a result, the Quranic verse was revealed, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَيَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ خَيْرُ الْبَرِيَّةِ. Meaning Khayr al-Bariyah was who? Ali and his Shia. Those were Khayr al-Bariyah. In another narration from the son of Abbas, he mentions that Khayr al-Bariyah, according to him, from a narration from the Holy Prophet, came in Ali and his Shia. Meaning what? He didn't say Ali and his people. He said Ali and his Shia. Not Ali and his followers, Ali and his Shia. Not Ali and his Ashab, Ali and his Shia. Meaning the word Shia, was it used during the time of the Prophet or not? These are narrations from the Prophet. And I will allow you to reflect upon a certain words that you have recited many times in your life, but maybe you have not made the correlation. Go back to Hadith al-Kisa. إِذَنْ وَاللَّهِ فُزْنَا وَكَذَلِكَ شِيعَتُنَا فَازُوا وَسُعِدُوا وَرَبِّ الْكَعْبَةِ. Isn't this what you recite in Hadith al-Kisa? Hadith al-Kisa, when was it revealed? During the time of the Prophet or after? It was during the time of the Prophet. The Prophet was involved in this. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, إِذَنْ وَاللَّهِ فُزْنَا. By Allah, we have become victorious. وَكَذَلِكَ شِيعَتُنَا. And likewise, our Shia have become victorious. فَازُوا وَسُعِدُوا. And have become in a state of happiness. وَرَبِّ الْكَعْبَةِ. And I swear by the Lord of the Kaaba in regards to this specific statement. So the word Shia was used during that time. Then we come to the question, which is, if this was the meaning, what is it used as today? Today, it is used as anyone, according to the words of the Prophet, according to the words of our beloved Prophet, anyone who followed Amir al-Mu'mineen was then named as a what? As a Shia. Meaning, anyone that accepted the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen is now a what? A Shia. And this is where the word originates from, and that is what it means. Meaning, first of all, it was not something that was made after. It was always present in Islam. We have many narrations that mention this word, and it became the attribute, according to their narrations, not to us, of the ones who are victorious on the Day of Judgment. إِنَّ هَذَا وَشِيعَتُهُ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Meaning they were victorious. Who? The Shia. So this is the very first point. The second point that comes is those Shia who now have a sense of belonging to Amir al-Mu'mineen. What is their quality? And what are they living for? What is their creed? The creed creed, we're not going to go over Tawheed, Adala, Nubuwa, Imam, the general creed. The general creed is a creed that Imam al-Sadiq explained in the verse that we started with, in which he says, رَحِمَ اللَّهُ شِيعَتَنَا خُلِقُوا مِنْ فَاضِلِ طِينَتِنَا وَعُجِنُوا بِمَاءِ وِلَايَتِنَا يَفْرَحُونَ بِفَرَحِنَا وَيَحْزَنُونَ لِحُزْنِنَا. The Imam starts with a dua. And I just want you to reflect on this. If the Imam is starting with a general dua, meaning his dua does not have an end, meaning if you consider yourself a Shia, then you are part of this dua that the Imam is making for you. Which means the beautiful young faces I see in front of me, the Imam was making dua for you 1,400 years ago. When he said, Rahimallahu Shi'atana, and you are inshallah of the Shia. He says, may Allah have mercy upon our Shia. What is their quality? خُلِقُوا مِنْ فَاضِلِ طِينَتِنَا. They were created from the remainder of our clay. And if we just stop here, I can get off the number and that's enough, by the way. To understand the true status you have for loving the Ahlul Bayt is something not normal at all. The fact that you are a Shia, inshaAllah, means that you were created from the remainder of the clay of the Immaculate Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Which is why there is a narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi afdalu salatu wassalam, where he says, let the Shia be thankful for their first blessing. For their first blessing. What is the first blessing? He said, طيب الولادة. They were born from a pure origin. The purity of their birth. طيب الولادة is something they need to be thankful for. The first blessing. So خلقوا من فاضل طينتنا وعجنوا بماء ولايتنا, and they were made with the water of our wilayah. Then, as a result of this, because now you have that connection with them, you become happy for their happiness and you become sad for their sadness. يَفْرَحُونَ لِفَرَحِنَا وَيَحْزَنُونَ لِحُزْنِنَا. Today, you will find that a certain person you have a specific connection to, the moment you see them smiling, it causes you to smile without knowing the reason. And if you walk and see that they are upset, suddenly something happens within you that also upsets you, but you don't know why. It is because of that connection that you have with that person. So you become happy for their happiness and you become sad for their sadness. Likewise with the Imams. We need to build a connection with them. If we want to be a true Shia, we need to build a connection with them to an extent where their happiness becomes my happiness and their sadness becomes my sadness. So therefore, when their happiness becomes my happiness, understand it is not just about Wilada celebration, and it is not just about martyrdom commemoration. No. The happiness of the infallible is your salah. The happiness of the immaculate is your siyam. The happiness of the immaculate is your worship to Allah Azza wa Jal. Is the following of your obligation. It is staying away from sinning. That is their happiness. In fact, going towards that which is sin is what causes them to be unhappy. And we need to be in a position where we become happy for their happiness, sad for their sadness. Means we need to be happy in ta'atillah. And we need to be far away from ma'siyatillah, from disobeying Allah Azza wa Jalla, in any shape or form. In any shape or form. Whether it is a big sin, whether it is a small sin. And if we find ourselves in that position, then we need to be in a position where we perform istighfar instantly. Why? Because I need to become sad for their sadness. I've become sad for performing that sin. And the sin, by the way, can sometimes come in a very small manner. Something you wouldn't even think about. Look at the verse in the Holy Quran. It is extremely beautiful when it talks about the idea of the relationship between the children and their parents. The Quran says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. How simple is this? How simple is this? Uff. Don't say uff to your parents. We have narrations that say that this is the minimum thing a person can even do. The minimum thing. Which means by default, you shouldn't even look at them in the wrong way. By default, if off you can't say, let alone answering back. If off you can't say, then don't even think about raising your voice. If off you can't say, don't even think about staring at them in the wrong manner. This is the idea. So look at the Quran, look at the Ahlul Bayt, look at their teachings. This is their happiness, this is their sadness. It was made very clear for us. And of the happiness, even if the narration said that we would become happy for their happiness, that would have been enough. Because by default, if you are happy for someone's happiness, you become sad for their sadness. And this is where the idea of walaya and bara'ah starts from as well. When today I show love and wilaya and association with a certain individual, by default, I show disassociation from their enemies. By default, it is not even something I need to add. It is by default. If I perform amr bil ma'ruf, if I'm enjoining good, by default, I am forbidding from evil. It is not an addition. It is not an addition. By default, the second one applies. Likewise, walaya, by default, bara'ah applies. Which is why Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi afdhalu salatu wassalam was asked. He said, what is religion? He said, is religion but love and hate? Why? Because they come together. Which is why a person would come to read the Quran, and the Quran is beautiful in its verses, and the way it just simplifies everything for us. If we truly ponder, if we were to ponder. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانَ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Allah made you love what? Faith. Iman, faith. وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. And He made it an adornment, a decoration within your hearts. وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ. And He made you hate, disbelief, and disobedience towards Allah Azza wa Jal. Which means what? There is love and there is what? Hate. By default, if I love faith, by default, if I am in a position where I love worship, I would hate disobedience. And this is what the Quran is alluding to. And there is no way, and there is no way where two loves that are contradictory to each other can come together. Whether it is a love in the sense where you have an emotional connection to a person, but that person is far away from Allah Azza wa Jal, and far away from whatever Allah Azza wa Jal had ordered, and you claim their love and the love of Allah, understand that this is something that is not possible. A person who wants to bring something like that together, they are one of two things, either a liar or a hypocrite. There is no third to them. There is no third to them, and this is in the best way that we can say it, Aslan. Now, without even trying to beat around the bush, either a liar or a hypocrite. You love someone, you love them for the sake of Allah, as long as you love Allah Azza wa Jalla. Or it is them or Allah. There is no third option to it. And likewise, when you come to the Holy Infallibles, when you come to the Holy Immaculates, when you come to the idea of the Imams and those who associated themselves with the Imams, you associate with them, and by default you disassociate from their enemies. Which is why, again, the Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر. We claim that we what? We believe in Allah and in the Day of Judgment. The Quran says you will not find a group of people that believe in Allah and in the Day of Judgment. What do? يُوَادُّونَ مَنْ حَادَّ اللَّهِ. Showing love or affection towards those who show hatred towards Allah Azza wa Jal, or who show a stance against Allah Azza wa Jal. وَلَوْ كَانُوا آبَاءَهُمْ. Even if it was their parents. أَوْ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ. Or even their children. أَوْ إِخْوَانَهُمْ. Or even their brothers, their siblings. أَوْ عَشِيرَتَهُمْ. No, even if it was their tribe. Anyone in the world. You will not find a person who will match those two types of loves. Why? Because this cannot be matched. This cannot be matched. And if I want to reach the highest level of faith, it is extremely important and vital for me to have at the top of that spectrum the love of Allah Azza wa Jal and just under it the love of Muhammad wa al Muhammad salawatullah alayhim ajma'in. And I promise you, when I say this, I am not saying this in terms of oratory. I say this based on narrations. The Holy Prophet himself would say, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, I swear by the one who can take my soul at any moment. وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, you will not reach the high level of Iman until I become more lovable to you than your own wealth, your own family, and your own self. 3 conditions he puts: wealth, family, and self. Unless you are able to love me more than these 3 things, you have not reached the high level of faith. Which is why one day, the second, he comes to the Holy Prophet, and the Prophet asks him, he says, "Oh Fulan, who do you love more? Me or myself? And me or yourself? Be honest." He said, "Ya Rasulullah, I love myself more." He said, "Then you have not reached Iman." He said, No, but I love you." This is not the idea that we want. The idea that we want is that the Holy Prophet needs to be at the top. Why? Because I become happy for his happiness, sad for his sadness, because he is the one that teaches me or guides me towards Allah Azza wa Jalla. This is the idea. This is the highest level of Iman. Why did Salman al-Farisi, and I want you to ponder about this, Salman al-Farisi, why is it that he suddenly became Salman al-Muhammadi? It is from his love to the Ahlul Bayt. Why? Because he said, "Salmanu minna Ahlul Bayt." He became one of us. Why did he become one of us? And I want you to ponder about this. Why did he become one of us? Because he became one of the closest Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen. As a result, how did he become within their household? رحم الله شيعتنا خلقوا من فاضل طينتنا وعجلوا بماء ولايتنا. So he changed from Salman al-Farisi to Salman al-Muhammadi. Salmanu minna Ahlul Bayt. Salman is of us, the Ahlul Bayt. We have a beautiful narration from our Prophet Nabi Allah Musa alayhi wa ala nabina wa alihi afdalu salati wa salam, where one day Allah Azza wa Jal asks him, he says, "O Musa, what deed have you done for me? What deed have you done for me?" He says, "Oh Allah, I prayed for you, and I fasted for you, and I paid zakat for you. These were all for you." He says, "Ya Musa, as for your prayer, it was for you a proof. And as for your siyam, it is for you heaven. And as for your zakat, it is for you a shadow on the day of judgment." A shadow on the day of judgment. Meaning, everything that we do, it is not something that Allah needs. Rather, it is that which brings us closer to Kamal, like we were talking about on the past few nights. It increases in our own status. So he said, "Oh Musa, these are all for you. What have you done for me?" He said, "Oh my Lord, show me the way to that which is only for you." He said, "Ya Musa, هل واليت لي وليا وعاديت لي عدوا?" Did you associate yourself with someone who associates themselves with me? And did you disassociate yourself from those that disassociate themselves from me? That is when Musa, the narration carries on, that is when Musa knew that the only deed that was only for Allah Azza wa Jal was to love for Allah and to hate for Allah. You love for the sake of Allah. You hate for the sake of Allah. It is not an emotional situation. It is a religious issue. It's a creedal issue. There is no such thing as, but they have done some good in their life. There is no such thing. If they are of the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal, then I take them as an enemy. And if they are of the lovers of Allah Azza wa Jal, I take them as a friend. And I want to use this opportunity to remind my dear brothers and sisters of something. I learned something from one of my friends in the holy city of Najaf. One day we were sitting down, and there was a certain individual who had a fight with another person. And the fight reached an extent where they stopped taqreeban talking to each other. Or rather, one person started backbiting about the other. it got to a point where I was entering into the dining hall that we had to eat, and the person who is not my friend, so the other person, came forward and he said, "Fadal, come eat with me." And I said, "You know what, I'll sit down with him and I'll eat." And we had a little conversation. Then I saw my friend entering. When my friend entered, out of respect, he came and said salam to me. When he came and said salam to me, he went and said salam to the other person. And I told him, sit down. I told him, don't go, sit down. So he looked at me and then he sat down. And then we just had a conversation and we carried on for about half an hour. We were conversing and then we all went back to our rooms. After I realized, I said, maybe he wouldn't have been comfortable to say that. So I asked him after, I said to him, look, I want you to forgive me. Maybe I put you in a bad situation, but I just saw that we were sitting, etc. So I thought you might as well join us for food. His answer shocked me. He said, Ibrahim, what are you talking about? He's a Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why would I have hate towards him? I will sit down with him and I will talk to him and I will say salam to him. I learned such a big lesson from that day. This is the idea of هَلْ وَالَيْتَ لِي وَلِيًّا وَعَادَيْتَ لِي عَدُوًا. This is the idea of you become a friend of their friends and enemy of their enemies. This doesn't mean that it is negative. This is natural. This is natural. And likewise for the people who would say that this might be some sort of negativity, I ask you, if a person goes against Allah Azza wa Jal or speaks ill of Allah Azza wa Jal, what would you do? Would you love them? Would you say, no, they are my friend? No, we grew up together? Or would you show some sort of hate towards them? Now I ask you, what would be your situation about a person who made it a sunnah to curse Amir al-Mu'mineen for 30 years on the manabir? So don't ask me whether this is not negativity. This is the simple idea of this person is with Allah, this person is against Allah. Simple as. So I perform wilayah to those who are with Allah, and I disassociate myself from the people who are away from Allah. So this is number one. The second thing that they bring in terms of the negativity of the Shia faith is the fact that the Shias are in a position where they are constantly commemorating, they are constantly reciting masa'ib, they are constantly performing ladum, they are constantly doing these issues, visiting graves, etc. So what is our position on this matter? First of all, when it comes to the visiting of the grave, bring me one verse or one narration that is against visiting graves. Genuinely. One verse or one narration that's against visiting graves. They will tell you, وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. The Quran says, and do not come and visit or stand by their grave. The Quran, finish the Quran, don't read half of the verse. لَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. Why? Because إِنَّهُمْ كَفَرُوا بِاللَّهِ. They have done kufr in Allah Azza wa Jal. They have disbelieved in Allah Azza wa Jal. That is why do not go visit their graves. As for if a person has not done such a thing, are they included within the verse? No, they are not. And therefore the verse does not apply to them. That is one. Number two, when I go back to Sunnah Nabawiyya, when I look at the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, for those that want to follow the Sunnah, go and look at how he lived his life. Go back to Sahih Muslim and you will find that in it Aisha narrates, she says every time that it was my night, the Prophet would leave the house at night and he would go to visit the graves of Baqi', and he would perform a dua, "Oh Allah, forgive the inhabitants of Al-Baqi' Al-Gharqad." Every time. She didn't say once or twice. Every time it was my night, he would do this. Meaning, how many times did the Prophet do this? Many times during his life. He visited the grave of Hamza. He visited other graves. Fatima al-Zahra visited graves. Amir al-Mu'mineen visited graves. Imam al-Hussein, you read, before he left Medina, he visited the grave of the Holy Prophet. He visited the grave of Fatima al-Zahra. These are the sunnah of our Ma'sumin. No, I'll go further. This is the natural ways, and this is within the fitrah of a human being. And Islam, by the way, is a religion of fitrah. And maybe this we can specify another night for. Inshallah, maybe if we have opportunities in the future, we can talk about how Islam is truly a religion of fitrah. Islam is a religion of fitrah. If something goes against the innate behavior of a human being, you will find that Islam will come with a verse or a narration to tell them you cannot do this. If it doesn't, the aql and the fitrah tells you that this is something normal. No, I take it further. The ijma' of the scholars of the Muslimin until Ibn Taymiyyah came. Until Ibn Taymiyyah came. Before Ibn Taymiyyah there was complete ijma'. Visiting graves was not allowed, it was mustahab. Not allowed, mu mubah. La, it was mustahab. Until Ibn Taymiyyah came and he said it's haram. Go back to Shafi'i. Shafi'i is what? He's one of the big four scholars of the other madhab, correct or no? Go back to Shafi'i. He has a book. He has a book about the rewards of visiting the grave of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. More narration. A book was compiled. A book was compiled on the rewards of visiting that holy grave. Meaning, visiting graves is something very natural, and therefore I don't want to even take more time with it. The third aspect of the negativity that you find in the Shia faith, that they claim at least, is the fact that we are in constant mourning, or that we are in a state of azab. But I will tell you that is not constant. All of you who have attended, you will see Sha'ban, the month of Sha'ban is a month of happiness. Maybe we are muqassirin that we don't attend as much. But look at the centers, look at the afrah. Go to Karbala. Karbala, the city in which Imam al-Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wassalam was martyred on. The land on which he was martyred on. Go to Karbala in Sha'ban. And go and look at the festives of Sha'ban in Karbala. In Karbala. Go and look. You don't want to go search on YouTube. Go and find out what is going on over there. This is what you find. This is number one. Number two, naturally we become happy for their happiness and we become sad for their sadness, as Imam al-Sadiq said. So therefore, if this is an occasion of sadness, I become sad for that sadness. And if this is an occasion of happiness, I become happy for their happiness. And this is of the ways in which I bring forward the sha'a'irullah. Sha'a'irullah means what? The signs of Allah Azza wa Jalla. I enliven the sha'a'ir of Allah. And the enlivening of sha'a'irullah in the Quran says what? فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. It is that which brings piety in the heart. I said, before someone comes and tells me the Quran is talking about sha'a'irullah, not sha'a'ir al-Hussein, let me say something to you. The verse that talks about sha'a'irullah, what is it talking about? Anyone know? It is talking about the slaughtering of the sheep when you are performing Hajj. So the verse says the slaughtering of the sheep is what? Sha'a'irullah. The slaughtering of the sheep is sha'a'irullah. Why? Because it is of the things that brings you closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. So therefore sha'a'irullah means what? It is not just prayer. It is actions that bring you closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Majalis are actions that bring you closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Imam al-Hussein is a name that brings you closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Commemorating the Holy Prophet is a name that brings you closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Commemorating Amir al-Mu'mineen is that which brings you closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. A philosopher by the name of Al-Afghani, he says, إِنَّ الْإِسْلَامُ مُحَمَّدِيُّ الْوُجُودِ. Islam came through Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَحُسَيْنِيُّ الْبَقَاءِ وَالْإِسْتِمْرَارِ. And through Imam al-Hussein it continued. This is the idea that we want to bring forward. Therefore, these are sha'a'irullah. Visiting graves is not a negative thing. In fact, it is that which is positive. It is that which enlivens the heart. It is that which brings you closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. It is that which increases in your remembrance of death and the hereafter. These are things that are extremely important to mention. And the idea of la'in comes from the idea of hating those who hated Allah Azza wa Jal. And I will focus on a narration in the Arabic language because I'm very wary of time now. In the Arabic language, that would literally conclude what I'm talking about here. And I'll maybe translate it if I feel like people aren't understanding the narration. Other than the fact that la'an itself is not cursing, Please stop translating it as curse. Sometimes the problem is within. Stop translating it as curse. La'an is a dua in which you ask Allah Azza wa Jal to withdraw His mercy from a specific individual. Oh Allah, withdraw your mercy from this individual. I say someone comes and tells me that is negative within itself. If it is negative, Allah wouldn't have done this. Does Allah do something that is negative? Genuinely. I know I'm going extremely simple, but the issue is so simple. Does Allah do something negative? No. If Allah doesn't do something negative, why does He say in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. Why would He use la'na? Why would He say the one who hurts Allah and His Prophet? Allah withdraws His mercy from them in this world and in the hereafter. And He has prepared for them a severe punishment. So therefore understand that within tashayyu' there is no negativity. And if you want to focus on the Arabic side of things, I will explain what true tashayyu' in reality is, inshallah. But for that, please allow me to continue with 3 salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.